Welcome to part 4 out of 5 for this tutorial for making Flappy Bird in Godot. We will now be looking at collision detection and game states, so this will now make the game fully functional, and by the end of the video the game will look like this here. So let's just get on with it. Before we do anything else, let me just fix one thing that's been bothering me a little bit, and that is the fact that the bird is rotating a little bit too quickly downwards, I think. So easy fix to this one, I'll just go in here and I'll increase or double this interval here. So that means I need to add 270 to this, making it 740, and then I need to divide this by 6. And that should make the bird rotate not as quickly downwards. Yeah, so I think this looks a little bit better. Alright, when we run the game now, we see that we can fly straight through the pipes and we can also fall straight through the floor. So we don't want that. So to fix that, we need to get some collision detection going on. Let's start by stopping the bird from going through the floor, and that's pretty easy to do. If we look here under the scene tab next to the bird, we see a little warning, and we see the same thing here for under the pipes, the floors, and the bird. And if we look at this, it says this node has no shape, so we can't collide or interact with other objects. Consider adding a collision shape 2D or a collision polygon 2D as a child to define its shape. So if we add a collision shape as a direct child to our kinematic bodies, that will stop them from going through each other. And we will do that for the bird and the floor, and then we'll get back to the pipes later. To add a collision shape to the bird, I go here to the bird and I'll just add a child node directly to the kinematic body parent here. And so I'll just try and enter here collision shape 2D. And now we select the shape here under the inspector, and I will choose a circle shape 2D. And then I'll just select this move mode here and move it over to where I want it to be and scale it up to the correct size. Like this, or maybe a little smaller. And now I left this a little smaller than the bird itself, and the reason why I did that is because I want the bird to kind of dig into the ground a little bit when it crashes. We can change the scale and the position later if we need to. So let's now add a collision shape to the floor as well. So we go here to main, and then I'll just click this icon here next to the floor element. And then we will add a collision shape to the floor as well. And this will apply to both floor elements because they are both instances of the same scene. So I'll just do the same now as I did with the floor, and I'll add a child node here, and I'll choose a collision shape 2D here, create, and then I will select a new rectangle shape 2D here. Like that. Just zoom in a little bit. And then I'll just drag this out to the correct size. Yeah, so that looks okay. So let's run this and see how it will work. Okay, so cool. That works as expected. So now the bird is not falling through the floor anymore. All right, so far so good. And now we'll be getting into some interesting bits, which is collision detection for the pipes, and we'll do this a little different now. So what we'll be doing is to add an area 2D to the pipes and then add collision shapes to that, and then we can use that for collision detection. So let's see how that's done. So let's go into the pipe scene, and I'll do that by clicking this icon here, and I'll go in here, and then I will add here as a child node an area 2D. Area 2D here, like that. And then to that, I will add two collision shapes. Collision shape 2D and another one. Here, add child node. Oh, sorry. That's going to be a collision shape 2D like that. And then I'll just rename this one to top and this one to bottom. And then I will here choose a shape, which I'm going to be choosing a rectangle shape 2D, and I'll just move this up here and resize it. Something like this, and then I'll add one here, rectangle shape, and I'll move it down, zoom out a little. Okay, like that. We can fine-tune this a little later if we need to. Then we'll need to do the same thing in the bird and add an area 2D with a collision shape to that as well. So I go into the bird here and I'll add a child node here, area 2D, and a collision shape to that as well. Collision shape 2D, and I'll choose here circle shape 2D. And I'll just move that to where I want it and scale it up. And now I'll make this cover the entire bird. Like that. Okay, so we got our area 2Ds with collision shapes in both the bird and the pipes. So that's good. Now the area 2D will emit a signal when one of its collision shapes is entered by another collision shape, and we can connect to that signal and make the program do something when that happens. So let's do that. Technically we could do this in the pipes, but I'll just feel it's more natural to do it in the bird. So we go here into the script of the bird, and in the ready function we will connect to the signal, and we will do that by entering here $ and area 2D, which is referring to this area 2D here, and then dot connect, and the signal we want to connect to is area entered, which is the already defined signal, and then I need to write here self, which I won't explain what it is, and then the name of the function that we're going to call here. So I'm just going to call this onCollided. So this is a function that we'll need to create ourselves. All right. So, and then I need to create this function here, down here, func onCollided, and I need to pass an argument here, which is the area 2D that it will be colliding with. So for now, I just write here collided with pipe, and that will show up here in the console when we are colliding with a pipe. So let's run this and see if it works. Okay. So it should come up here when we collide with any of the pipes. Like that. So that seems to work fine. Yeah. All right, and let's also add the same thing to the ground, because we want the bird to die when it crashes into the ground as well. So as you remember, we already added a collision shape to the floor as a direct child, but to detect when something is crashing into this object and do something about it, we need to use an area 2D. So I'll just add here an area 2D as a child node, like this, and then I'll add a collision shape here to that. And I'll choose here as well a rectangle shape, and I'll just drag it out so it covers the floor like this. Cool, now this should give us a printout to the console in the same way that it did when we collided with the pipe. So let's check out if that works. Okay, good. So that we are now colliding with the ground, and it gives us a printout to the console. Now, obviously, when the bird crashes, we want it to behave differently. We want it to stop flapping, and we also want the ground and the pipes to stop when the bird dies. And then when the bird is dead, we want to be able to restart the game, and actually at the start we want the bird to just cruise along and the game won't start before we press spacebar. So that leads us into having different states in the game. So what we will do is very simplistic, but it will work for a simple game like this. So we want basically three states. One state which is before the game starts, where the bird is just cruising along, pipes are not coming on, and the bird is not falling. And then we want a state where we are playing as normal, and then when we crash we want to go into a dead state. So to achieve this, it would be really handy for us if we had a way for all the different objects to know which states the game is in, like a way to share information between different objects in the game. And one way of doing that is by using what is called an autoload in Godot. And this will in effect work as a global object to which all the other ones have access. Okay, so let's do this then. I'll go here into the scene and I will create a new scene, and I'll just make it a simple node, and I will call this globals. And I'll just save this, save scene as into the scene and call it globals here, save, and then I'll add a script like this, and then I'll just remove everything here except the extends node thing. So we're just going to be deleting the ready function and the process function because this is not going to do anything. It's just going to hold information for us. To make this an autoload, we go into the projects tab up here into project settings and then autoload here, and I'll just click this folder icon next to the path, and then I'll go into scenes here and select the globals TSC on here. Okay, and I'll add that like that. And when we've done this, this object will be accessible to all other objects in our game. So we can access this from the bird, from the main, from the pipes and the ground, and so on. Before we start with the states, let's look at something else, and that is the scroll speed variable. So if we look into the pipe script here, we see that we have a scroll speed and we also have a scroll speed in the floor. But we want these to move at the same speed always. So the most natural thing for us would be to use the same variable, and we can do that using our globals scene, which is our autoload or global variables object. So let's go into the globals here and create a variable called scroll speed. Scroll speed, and I'll give this a value of 100. Like that. And then I can go into the pipe and swap that out. So I'll use here the scroll speed, and I'll enter here, like if I just write globals here, this will come up. So that's one we're going to use, and then I'll just put in scroll speed, and I'll do the same in the floor here. Globals and scroll speed. So now if I run this, it should work the same way. Which it doesn't, because we will need to prefix the lines where we access the variables from the autoload with onReady, like this. So we need to prefix these two lines here with onReady. And I won't even try to explain why this is so, but I think this has to do with the order of which things are loaded in Godot. So we need to prefix these two lines and also this line here in floor. So this will really be the equivalent of putting this down here in the ready function. So when we run this now, this should work well, which it does. So all is fine. And now over to the states. So the game is going to have 3 different states. So let's just run over how that's going to be. The first state is the pre-game state, where the bird is just cruising, that is, it is not falling. There is no flapping animation, but we will have a cruise animation. The floor is scrolling, but the pipes are not scrolling. The points counter is not showing, and player input will move the state into playing state, in which we're playing as normal. Here the bird is falling, there is a flapping animation, the floor and pipes are scrolling, the points counter is showing, the player input will jump the bird, and when we crash, that will move the state into dead state. In the dead state, the bird will be falling, there won't be any animation, the floor and the pipes will not be scrolling, the points counter is not showing, but the end UI is showing, and the player input will move the game into pre-game state and start over again. Okay, so let's create a game state variable here in the globals. So I'll set here for game state, and I'll set this now to pre-game. So let's try and get that to work first, at least with what we've got so far. So I will call these states pre-game, playing, and dead. So if I start with the floor here, I want this to scroll when the game state is pre-game or playing but not dead. So what I'll do here, I'll say if game state is not dead, then all this will happen. Like that. Oh, sorry. We need to, of course, put in here globals like that. And then for the pipes, I want this scrolling to happen only when we are in playing state. So I'll say here if globals.gamestate equals playing, then all this will happen. Okay, so let's now zoom the camera out a little bit and see if this all works as we want it to. Put it this to 5 maybe, so I'll see the pipes. Okay, so let's run this and see if this works. So the pipes should not be scrolling now, which they don't, so that's good. Let's now try and put this in playing state. And now the pipes and the floor is scrolling, so that's good. All right, let's put this back to pre-game like that, and I want to zoom the camera back in, and also I would like these to be a little bit more to the left here because they're taking too long now to arrive in the screen. So I'll just subtract 500 here like that, and here will be 773 like that. And then let's do the bird now. All right, now we need to think a little bit here. For the movement, we only want this to happen when we are in playing mode or dead mode, which is to say not in the pre-game mode. So let's put an if statement here. If game state is equal to playing, or the game state is equal to dead, we want this to happen. Now I could write here if the game state is not equal to pre-game, but I think this is just a bit more clear to read. Now for the jumping, obviously we want this to happen when we are in playing mode, but we want this as well to happen when we are in pre-game mode. So when we press spacebar to start the game, we want the bird to jump then as well. So let's enter that here. To pre-game or globals.game state is equal to playing. Like that. And for this rotation, we want that to happen when we are playing or when we're dead. So let's just move that up here. And then just one thing before we do a test run, and that is that we want the game to progress from pre-game to playing when we press spacebar from pre-game. But when I think of it, maybe it's better to restructure this so that we got this first check for input as the first one, and then the other ones here on the inside. So let me just restructure that. So I'll just put this one up here like this. And then I'll put a second if statement here where I check for only if the game state is equal to pre-game. I will set the game state to playing. In quotes like this. Okay, let's try and run the game and see how that works. Okay, we are now here in pre-game state, And we don't really want this flapping animation now. We want the bird to bob up and down, but we'll fix that in a moment. Let's press spacebar and see if this works now. And yeah, this works. So the pipes start coming, so this is working good. Now, of course, we don't die when we crash into the pipes, but we'll fix that in a minute. Let's do the bobbing animation first, and then we go here into the animation player, and we want to add a new animation here. New animation, and we'll call this bobbin, like this, and we'll add a track here, which will be a property track on the bird itself, like the parent element here, and the property we want to animate is the position, like this. Okay, so let's zoom in here a little bit. So I will right click here and insert a key, and I'll do the same every 0.2 seconds. Like this. And I'll just make one here as well. And then I'll click on the first one here, and on the right here we can see the values for the position here. So I'll leave this at 0 and 0. And on this one, I will move it up here by 5 pixels. And here I will leave it at 0. And here it will be +5. And then, oh, sorry. Yeah. And here it's 0 again. Yeah. And then we'll reduce this to 0.8. And we'll have this looping. So let's see how that looks. I'll just run this animation here. So it will be like this. And another thing I can do is here on this tab here, click the cubic, which will make it a little bit smoother. So it will look like this now. And then I'll make this the autoplay animation. And then I'll go here into the script. And then here I will start the flapping animation here. And before we do a test run, let's fix the dying issue. And then we just go down here to the onCollided function, and we will set the game state to dead, like this. And we will also here just stop the animation. Stop, like that. So let's run this and see what it looks like. Okay, so we're now here in the ready state, or the pre-game state. When I press space, we start the animation. That's good. And then when I crash, we die. So that's good. Now, one big part missing is to restart the game. After we crashed, when we're in dead state, we want to restart the game when we press the space bar and then go back to the pre-game state. But we also want the pipes to be put back to the starting position, and one problem for us now is that the bird does not have easy access to the pipes. So we will do this by emitting a custom signal from the bird and then have the main connect to that and do something when this signal is emitted. So we need to define the signal first, and I'll do that up here. This is signal, and I'll call this restart game, like this. And then I go down here to where we check for the input, and I put in another if statement. If the game state is equal to dead, we will emit this signal, which is called restart game. Then we need to go into the main and connect to this signal. And for that, I need to add a script here to the main. Like that, just remove all this stuff again. And then I'll do that here in ready. So I'll say bird.connect, and the signal was called restart game itself. And then I'll call this on restart game. And then I need to make these function down here, func on restart game. And for now, I'll just print here restarting game. So let's check if that works. Yeah, so this works now. So what we need to do here in the restart function is first of all to set the game state back to pre-game. So I'll just do that first. Equal pre-game. But we also need to put the pipes back to where they started, and we need to put the bird in the correct position, set the animation of the bird, and so on. So all these things related to the pipes and the bird, I think it's cleaner to let the objects themselves sort that out. So I will just call some functions here that we will need to create, which will be reset functions for both of these objects. And since we have two sets of pipes, we will need to call that for each of them. So I'll just do here, I'll just scale that up. So we got here pipes pipe dot reset, and we got the other one pipes pipe 2 dot reset, and the bird dot reset. So none of these functions exist yet, but we need to create them. Let's do the pipes first. So we go into the pipes here and we set up a reset function. Reset. I'll just write pass here for now. So all we need to do really is to set the position back to where it started, and we already set a starting position for the pipes here when we started, so we can grab these positions here in the ready function, or we can use that onReady keyword that we used before. So I can say here onReady var start position equals global position dot x, and then I can use that position down here in the reset. So I'll say global position dot x equal start position. So that should work now. And then we'll do the bird, make a reset function here as well. So first of all, we need to set the global position dot y to 0, and we need to set the move vector dot y to 0, and we want to start the bobbing animation. Bobbing. And I think that's all. So let's try and run the game, but before we do that, I want to zoom the camera out a little bit so we see more clearly what is going on. So let's run this now. Okay, so we're bobbing there. Now I start flapping. Okay, and then I crash here, and then we restart again, and yeah. So this works the way it should. Except one thing, and that is the rotation. Okay, so I'll just set the zoom back to 1, and then I go and fix the rotation and the bird here. So rotation degrees equals 0, and then let's try and run this again now. Okay, and then back to bobbing. So this seems to work fine now. Yeah, cool. So now we are almost done, and in part 5 we'll be doing the UI elements, we'll be adding the score counter and some other little things to finish up this game. If you watched thus far, I guess you found this useful, so it would be super nice if you smashed that like button, and in any case, have a great day and I'll see you around.